We all thought the kids next door was just a fantasy, just a bunch of missions, weird villains, and ridiculous gadgets. But that's not what's really happening. Because if you actually go back and watch it, this wasn't a game. This was an insurgency. Take for instance, season 1, episode Operation Ice Cream. The ice cream truck rolls in, but the music is tense. The show doesn't treat these moments like imagination. It treated like it's operations. Look how they move. Code names, surveillance, tactical formations. The ice cream man isn't a neighborhood staple. He's a target. The infrastructure of fear. Most kids shows are about escaping into a world of fun, but the K&D didn't build a treehouse to play in. They built a headquarters. Season 3, episode Lockdown.
Officer of Sector V. Confirmed. Please verify genetic code.
And I really wanted to live there, but I got this treehouse instead. Thanks, Dad. Now you start to think, why would children need a global organization? Why the ranking system, the weaponry, the literal command structure? Because they aren't playing, they're responding. Kids don't build these systems like this unless they feel fundamentally unsafe. In the world of K&D, the adults aren't just parents, they are occupying force. They control the schedules, the rules, the food, the very air that the kids breathe. Take for instance, season 2, episode Operation Geese. Anytime an adult enters the frame, the tone shift. The kids go from playful to defensive. They have no power in the real world, so they built a replacement for a world that refused to listen to them. Everything adults have, technology, communication, law, the kids rebuilt this from scratch. That's not imagination, that's adaptation. And once you see the entire show changes, it's not about fighting adults for fun. It's about a generation trying to exist in a world where they have zero agency. The missions feel serious because to them, they are a matter of survival. But the real question isn't why they built a treehouse. The real question is why the world is so hostile that they needed to in the first place. Because in part 2, we need to talk about the villains and why every single one of them feels less like a joke and more like a distorted version of real life. At first, the villains in codename Kids Next Door feel ridiculous. A evil ice cream man, a living homework monster, adults obsessed with oral hygiene. They all look like jokes, but look closer because every villain in the show isn't a monster. They are a distortion. Take for instance, season 1, episode Operation Cake. The delightful children from down the lane standing in a perfect eerie unison while refusing to share their birthday cake.
Ritual of watching us eat our super yummy birthday cake while you get nothing.
They take something normal and turn it into something overwhelming. A birthday party isn't a celebration anymore. It's a display of power, and suddenly it doesn't feel exaggerated. It feels accurate. Because that's how kids experience authority, not as small problems, but as something massive and uncontrollable. Teachers, parents, rules, expectations to show that crushing the real world pressures and turn them into something kids can actually fight. Because in real life, they can't sucker punch a bad grade. They can't shoot a laser at bedtime. Now,
Season 1, episode Operation Floss. Night Brace cornering the kids next door.
brandishing terrifying oversized dental tools in a dark, cynical setting.
Time for an appointment, number 1. Don't worry, this paste is a yummy, yummy new flavor. Imitation bubblegum.
This is why Sector V really exists. To lead their own orchestra, they had to turn their backs on the crowd. They had to shut out the defying noise of the adult world because it was the only way to dictate their own lives. They aren't fighting supervillains. They're fighting for their own helplessness. They take things they can't control and turn them into things they can defeat. The kids next door don't exist to win. They exist to cope. Now the show feels different again. You aren't watching superheroes. You are watching a psychological survival tactic. And once you see that, you realize something even darker. Now we're looking at season 2, episode Operation Spank. Kids are being hunted down and punished over small acts of disobedience. And that guy should be arrested.
Aunt, I have but one thing. A good spanking!
Because if the villains are just distortions of the real world, what happens when those distortions disappear? What happens when you stop fighting them and start agreeing with them? Because in part 3, we need to talk about what happens when kids grow up and why in this show that is the absolute worst thing that can ever happen. For most of the series, it feels like the adults are the problem. They make the rules, they control the resources, they refuse to listen. The show reveals something much worse. Adults aren't just the enemy, they're what happens next. In the world of Kids Next Door, getting older isn't just a natural transition, it is a calculated, systematic loss of self. A slow motion betrayal where you eventually wake up as the very thing you spent your childhood fighting. Take for instance, Operation Soda. Older kids and teens treated differently. There's a shift in tone around growing up. Look at the teenagers in the show. They aren't just older kids. They are the first wave of abandonment. They represent that awkward, painful middle ground where you still remember the war, but you already started choosing the other side. They are the traitors of childhood. The show frames them as mercenaries, villains, because in the eyes of a child, a teenager is someone who started to trade their imagination for social status and systematic power. They are the early warning sign that the decommissioning is coming. Because at 13, the war ends not with a bang, but with erasure. Now we look at the clip from season 2, episode Operation End. The fear of decommission, not just losing the mission, but losing the self that believed in it.
I can't believe it. Listen, number 1, come with me to Moonbase. Together we can rescue your team before their memories are erased.
No, old friend, that would just put you at risk.
Childhood is treated like a threat, something dangerous that must be sterilized. Decommissioning isn't just a memory wipe, it's a psychological lobotomy. They don't just take your treehouse, they take the part of you that you knew why the treehouse mattered in the first place. Imagine waking up at 13 and looking at a piece of 2x4 technology and only seeing a piece of wood and some duct tape. That is the true tragedy. Adults in the world aren't just strict, they are hollow. They are people walking around with phantom limbs where their creativity used to be. They fear the kids next door because the K&D reminds them of the fire they were forced to put out. This weight of inevitability is what makes the characters we love feel so desperate, especially Nigel Uno. Season 6, episode Operation Interviews, number 1 reflecting series about mission and his future.
Out! Wait! Don't go! Please tell me what I've been chosen for!
Number 1 acts the way he does. He isn't just a bossy leader, he's a man watching a countdown clock while the other kids are playing. Nigel Uno is studying the blueprints because he knows he's on a timer. He understands that every second he spends just being a kid is a second he's not fighting the inevitable. His seriousness is ill against the fear of becoming the very thing he fights. He knows that one day he will wake up and he won't recognize number 2, 3, 4, or 5. He sees them as colleagues or strangers or annoyances. The organization doesn't exist to protect kids from adults. It exists to protect kids from becoming adults. But eventually time catches everyone. The war was never built to be won. It was holding on action, a desperate attempt to delay the ending. To hold on a little longer to keep childhood alive before the world comes to take it away and replace it with a desk, a suit, and a set of rules that you no longer have the imagination to question. Once you realize the war is unwinnable, the show stops being an action adventure. It becomes a funeral, a march up for a generation that refused to grow up. It's a warning that we all laughed at because we thought we'd be different. We thought we'd be the ones who remembered. Because in part 4, we need to talk about the final warning the show leaves you with. Not about childhood, but about what happens when you finally stop resisting. At the end of every mission, the kids next door win. At least on paper, the villains stop, the treehouse is saved, the adults are pushed back, and then it all starts again. Because the real threat was never a man in the suit or a monster in the closet, it was the system. Let that sit in for a second. No matter how many times the kids fight back, the world doesn't change. School is still there, the rules are still there, the clock is still ticking, and that's the point. Kids Next Door was never about beating adulthood. It was about delaying it. It was a desperate, beautiful, marvelous attempt to build a world where kids had power while knowing deep down that the walls was closing in. That's the warning, because eventually the mission stops. The treehouse empties, the gadgets are boxed away, and the kids become the people they used to fight. At some point, everyone stops resisting, not because they suddenly agree with the rules, but because it gets easier to live inside the system than to keep fighting it. Resistance is exhausting, acceptance is quiet, and that's what the show really was trying to protect. Not just childhood, but memory. The memory of what the world felt like before you learned to accept it, before you learned to stop questioning, before you learned to value order over wonder. This is why it is so much harder now. As a kid, you watched a show and you thought it was an action series about a fighting adult, but as an adult, you realize it was a tragedy about becoming one. It's slow. It's happened slowly. You don't even notice. One day you stop looking for the secret entrance to the treehouse, and you start looking for a parking lot spot. You stop questioning the rules. You start enforcing them, and that's when the system finally wins. There's always a moment in a childhood when the door opens and let the future in.